And I was teasing back that now it's like it's a light blue. The deep of the blue has, baby blue. Let's get into. I'll start with you, Kojo.
Okay. Yes, it looks like somebody has stained their blue shirt in Ejuso. And I mean, it's fascinating to look at the numbers, how they turned out. This independent candidate really putting in a strong show in a place that, like he kept saying, was the bluest of blue. Ejuso in particular, the NPP majority has always been overwhelming in the 80s of percentages. For him to scrape through with just over 50%, it says a lot. But I think that the voters are talking directly to President Akufo-Addo. I think it's not so much of the performance of Adiumi. That's the name, right? Adiumi. Thank you. I don't think it's so much of the independent candidate's performance. Yes, I mean, he has played a very prominent role in the constituency over the years. But I think people were just trying to tell the president that this is how unhappy we are with you. And the reason why I focus on the president, not even the party, is because the president was there just before the election, making some very interesting comments, talking about how if the person who wins is not from his party, then how is he expected to work with the person? Making a repeat of the gaffe he has been lambasted over. What he said to the people of Ejuso, what he said to the chiefs in Aflao, what he said to the flood victims. These things that he has been so criticized for, he went to repeat them there. So you can quite easily see that in spite of all the money that flew around, people wanted to tell the president that you the ball wheel, and that's how they voted. Now, the reason why I say it's not so much to do with Adiumi is because let's also remember that the NDC didn't participate in in this particular election. And I still believe that people are still quite binary in their voting patterns. It's going to take a lot of work for independent candidates like, your candidate, Alan. It's going to take a lot of work on their part to get people to stop thinking binary and start considering seriously third options. Okay. And we haven't suddenly arrived there. It's going to be as a result of a lot of work by candidates like yours. So at the moment, people are still binary, but option B wasn't there. So they voted for the next most recognizable person. And that, of course, happened to be Adiumi, who used to be, with the NPP, but has a pedigree of standing up to, his party, to the president. So, for me, I think that was perhaps the biggest factor in how the numbers turned out. Because once again, in spite of all the money that flew around, people still voted how they felt.
Including weed. From the video that we watched, including weed. Indeed. This is what we are hearing from them, that weed was shared. Of course, this is something that must be verified. But they said it, right? The voters were the ones who were saying this. But for me, the one that is verified and most shocking was the Member of Parliament for Kwadaso. Yes, Kwadaso. Kingsley, the last name always escapes me. Nyako, thank you very much. Kingsley Nyako. Professor Kingsley Nyako. Who was caught on Joy cameras. That's the thing about Joy. Even when we are not chasing you, we still catch you. So my colleague Ohimin Teria was doing a stand-up to the camera. And right there in the background, over his shoulder, was Kingsley Nyako interacting with two EC officials. Now, the way it played out, the two EC officials were on the other side of, there was a row of about 3 or 4 tables. They were on the other side of the first table from the right. And this Kingsley man walked up to them, started a conversation. There was a policeman standing behind the two electoral officials. So one of them pointed to the far end, the table at the farthest end from where they were.
suggesting that they should go there. So they all moved. They were moving on their side of the table. This man was moving on his side. They congregated at the end table away from the police officer. Then you could see just over Ohiming's shoulder, one of the EC officials pointed to the table. Then this MP put his hand in his back pocket first, then his front pocket, took out a thick white envelope, threw it on the table, pointed to it, and then walked away like some blue man. Now, of course, he was asked about it later by Joy News reporters, and he said, oh, it was just a favor that he was doing the EC officials. So, of course, there was a lot of uproar. I mean, this thing happened live on TV. So, the EC had to say something about it. And they came out with this very interesting statement where they were explaining that the video shows an individual. They never mentioned the MP by name. And they said this was after investigation. So after investigation, they couldn't tell who that MP was. When we at home, without investigation, could see his face, they, after investigation, didn't know who he was. So they never mentioned his name. A man walks up in the video, takes an envelope from his pocket and places it in front of the EC officials. They later discovered that the man said that was for their lunch. This was the EC's story. Why did they feel they had to tell us this? Really, all they needed to say was, we have seen what you have seen, and we have alerted the police, and we've sacked these two people. They did say that they've removed those two people. But that apart from that, the rest of it was giving us some story, an explanation. Why did the EC think that it was their job to explain what we just saw to us? Why was the EC taking that job upon themselves? You see the things they do that make it difficult for people to just automatically trust them. Meanwhile, you are the referee. We should automatically trust you. Why? Why this explanation? Why did they feel it was their job to explain what we just saw? Two people have been caught clearly taking a bribe. The person who gave it said it was a favor. The people who received it said it was lunch. That's a bribe. But welcome to the Republic of Ghana, where we don't know the definition of bribe anymore. We are not sure. Oh, if the thing was given as a favor, then it wasn't a bribe. Oh, if it was for lunch, then it's not a bribe. A thick envelope can somehow not be a bribe when handed by a political player who has an interest in the election, handed by this person to an electoral official at a polling station. Somehow it's not a bribe. Only in Ghana can we be confused about what we saw. So maybe the envelope contained what? Wache with cutlery. Lunch. No, I mean, I don't know how, how idiotic they think we are, that they should feed us such stories. Right? But the EC felt that they should come and give us this explanation. And of course, now that they have done their investigation, and we haven't heard anything about police getting involved, and these two people apparently have been removed, whether they've been sacked or not, Krampo is not clear. So that's it. Anyway, in spite of all that, we all saw the results. I think this was people talking directly to the president. That we've had enough of you. You are coming to tell us that if the person who wins is not from your party, you can't work with him. You. Meanwhile, by the end of this year, you'll be irrelevant. Because you are on your way out. So with every passing day, you become less important. But you are telling us that we should choose someone that you will work with. So the people told him point blank that it's not you.
I have to repeat what Don Ellis on our Facebook page just said. He said, "Wow," and I have to agree with him. Some of the stories you hear these days, in connection with how we are politicking, I think the best expression would just have to be, wow, right? Wow. As we discuss this, I also want us to factor in the voter turnout, just so that we can rush through. Sorry, I didn't give you that opportunity. We can rush through. So we look at the issues together. Your reaction to the results, and also just the voter turnout. We are looking at less than 50% voter turnout. In fact, we are looking at 49% voter turnout, for an election.
So one thing opportunity to wish your esteemed viewers very good evening. always excited to be in D. Kudu Yank's presence. My Katanga brother, today, is it Kawa or Afafanto? Which is which? and Kawa is Katanga Alumni Wives Association or Afafanto. I think.
Oh dear.
Obviously.
Guess where?
Yeah, so a Jesu election, and this Jesu by-election, in my view, was very significant because of so many factors. One being the extent of the deviation in terms of voter turnout. As we all know, that usually during by-elections, the voter turnout is not the same as it's usually lower than the main elections. But to have a voter turnout reduced by whooping, as in from 82%, 80-something percent in 2020 to 49%, is not a mere deviation. It's something that needs, we need to really take a look at. Also, to have a very deep blue constituency, a constituency where on the average MPP wins by 82%, even when their main contest, as in when the NDC contest, because the NDC gets around 15%. For the MPP to win by about 55%, so essentially what it means is that usually when the NDC contest, NDC gets around 12-15%, NPP gets 82%. So it means that about 30-something% of the people who ordinarily would vote for the MPP chose to vote for Ediomi. Another over 30% decided to even stay at home. If you take the bigger picture, about 60% or decided not to vote for the MPP, whether by abstaining or by voting for Ediomi. That is telling. That is huge. And I agree with you when you say they are speaking to the president. Our president, we have a lot to say to him. I also think it is a vote against the system. Well, I keep on saying, see the extent of the deprivation of Nanado's leadership, as an extent of it just can't happen in a vacuum. It will happen because there was a right environment that enables this kind of Koshoko leadership to sprout. And I think everything about the leadership he's given us was played out in this election. And listen, I'm scared, as in for want of a better word. I'm scared because of the extent to which he has destroyed all the values, all the principles, let's say everything that would limit a natural, the natural instinct of human beings to cause chaos. For which reason we even took upon ourselves a constitutional democracy in the first place. Because we must remember that the ideological or the philosophical idea that underpins this kind of system of governance that we took, system of governance that historically was a massive departure from the feudal system being practiced in Europe, was a recognition of the fact that, you see, if we don't create a system where we have government that has powers and whose powers are limited, then because of the unruly and chaotic nature of human beings, then there'll be serious chaos. And that's why we took the system, and then we are always guided, or society is always guided by some form of values and principles. You understand? And also law and order. Because if you have an election, and could you, so let me put on record, I stand on all fours with your views on what Nanado said and his impact. But for me, even to attempt to go beyond that, when you have a situation where a professor who also happens to be a parliamentarian, so he's supposed to serve as a check on the president, he's supposed to pass laws and make laws, has the audacity of the cockroach, has the audacity to bribe, because what he does was a bribe. In Ghana, we call bribe lunches. No. We call bribes lunches. To bribe EC officials. I like the graphic nature of your description. Because before, Oh, no, leave here. Come here. The guy is so skilled. So the manner in which he has the casual nature of his walk away. Jesus Christ. So after through it, the MPP has allowed Nana Addo to exercise that spirit, the spirit they had, the spirit that was premised on the liberal democracy, all those principles, tolerance, consent of the people governed to be governed, accountability, probity, all the beautiful ideals that governed or that represents what was best of a liberal democratic system, and the party that claims to be the repository of that idea, to sink so low to the extent that they openly breach every single value and principle of that ideal. I mean, what will make Asante Boakye have the courage to say that he's a real minister, and that if you are not from his party, you can't even sit with him and lobby him to construct your rules? Jesus Christ. Has Asante Boakye does he not understand whose power he is holding? Does he not understand that it is not his money? Does he not understand the idea behind the word duty, obligation? Because see, if you understand the meaning of the word duty, I may not like you, but I have a duty to you. See, the reason why I'm my father, we're all parents. The reason why we take off our children, well, in my view, it's not because we love them. You know, it's not because I love my children. Because I am obligated. I have a duty. Because it's different. I may dislike you, but once I have an obligation towards you, that's a higher calling. So it has nothing to do with emotion.
Whether you like or you
don't like. It is your obligation.
Right.
So for Asante Boakye to have that coach audacity also, follow his boss, fill the MPP with familiar spirit, to have that audacity to tell the people of Ghana, people of Jesu, that unless you choose somebody from a party, then I'm going to renege on that my duty to you. You know, that statement is tantamount to, because you know he wasn't elected, so he being sacked or resigned. But the president, those statements that he feels he can go around, you told the people of Mepe, you've told Kofi, you've told the chiefs in Volta region, you've told Asenov. That's an impeachable statement. But what he's simply telling us that he is not going to fulfill the obligation he has towards us.
Right.
Also, to think that we have a police force whose authority is not from the president, but whose authority really is from the constitution and indirectly also from the people of Ghana. To think that their hands are tied and so they cannot arrest. Because the professor, what's his name? Ernest Nyako, has no business walking around. Kingsley, thank you very much. Oh, I know one Ernest Nyako who is at Barclays Bank. My apologies to you, Mr. Ernest Nyako. Kingsley Nyako. He has no business walking around because he, for crying out loud, he committed an offense on live television. We are all witnesses. As in, I'm ready to give evidence in court. Should they need it? But we all saw him for crying out loud. What is he doing walking around? President Trump, the president of the most powerful nation on earth, is facing trial. That is serious democracy. I am mere MP. A mere MP has the cockroach audacity to violate his oath to Ghana. Because when they take their oath essentially is a vow to protect and defend the constitution of Ghana. That's the vow they take. That essentially means that they've taken a vow, an oath, to protect the purpose also of the constitution of Ghana. So he breaches that oath. One, he hasn't resigned. He has not seen the sense to resign. He breaks the law, the criminal law, and the police are thinking that he's above the law. Yeah, I understand. Something similar, same thing happened with the trade minister, not the correct one, not Alan Chamat. He was a correct trade minister. But the trade minister who said, do you could say you have beard, you don't have any sense in head, you have beard. Yeah, who could say you have beard? Who could openly, in the presence of the police, say he's going to beat up somebody, threatens the life of another human being, and the police just watched him. we beg the police. You understand? There's a reason why we felt that the police must be independent of the president. Why their powers come from the constitution itself? Because the purpose of our constitution is to protect our lives, is to protect our properties, is to protect our liberties. And that's why we give so much power to the police. So if they think that in spite of those powers, they are impotent to hold criminally accountable people only because they are public officers, then we have a problem.
Right.
Then we have a problem. So for me, as in, those were my take from the election. As in the fact that the biggest, when history is analyzing Anado's rule, yes, I know the economy is almost in, or is in coma really. I think the biggest negative of this is calamitous leadership is the breakdown in our respect for our values, is the breakdown for our respect for principles, is the extent to which he's undermined every concept, every principle of constitutional democracy, is the extent to which he's undermined the oath he took. He's disrespected, well, not undermined, he's disrespected the oath he took to protect and defend our constitution. And for me, that's a worry. And I think that, yes, the people of Ejuso made a loud statement to Nanado. I think it's a statement that we must all hold on to and fight to defend our country. Because what is at stake now, as in seeing what's happening in Ejuso, the confidence or the courage they had to share weed, you understand, to the people of Ejuso. You understand? The courage they had to share money. You understand? Clearly, these are people. So we have a president, we have people in a party, in NPP, who are so depraved that they've lost the purpose for which they were even formed. Right. And that's and going to 2024, for me, that's what is at stake. And it is an obligation on all of us as Ghanaians to fight for our country.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Kwame.
Well, thank you very much. Let me seize this opportunity to extend my commiserations to Professor Nana Jenopo-Kwajaman, who lost her brother, I think on Tuesday, I believe, and also to greet
the 1 week.
Yeah, the 1 week. Yeah, and also to greet the people of Elmina, Commander Abrim, and Eguafo. I think Kojo and Senior have dealt with the matter in totality. However, I would want to look at it from a different perspective. I think what happened in Ejuso is symptomatic of how undesirable the Akufo-Addo administration has been to the good people of Ghana. And the conduct of the elections in Ejuso, the by-elections in Ejuso, is demonstrable of the fact that people have lost complete faith in the Akufo-Addo administration. Because here you are, in one breath, having a government person, and then, so an establishment candidate, let me just use an establishment candidate, and then a person who obviously is angered by actions and inactions, for which reason he decided to resign from the party and to contest as an independent candidate. So you have an establishment candidate who has all the forces of the state behind him. And you have an individual who does not have a quarter of the state resources in support of his bid to becoming the member of parliament, but managed somehow to be able to pull the votes that he did. It is telling that despite all the attempts by Nana Akufo-Addo, despite all the attempts by Stephen Ntim, by Chairman Wontumi, by Asenso Boakye, and all the leading figures in the NPP administration today, the people of Ejuso made a resounding or sent a resounding message to the president that your influences do not no longer matter in the choice of who represents us in parliament. I think that was very demonstrable, and that was clear that even though you came to us, even though you threatened us, even though you made promises, we decided that we're going to vote for a Dumi and not your candidate. But of course, where you have money flying around in envelopes and people being offered 100 Ghana cedis, 200 Ghana cedis and things like, given the current state of the economy, people would want to accept the 100 cedis and 200 Ghana cedis to vote a certain way. But even in that, I've seen videos and reports where people indicated that they did not accept the money that was offered to them because their conscience and their belief was clear that they were going to vote for Aduomi because of his track record and because of what he has done for the constituency in the past. The president said that Aduomi was better because he was axed from Parliament by John Kuma. And then he said that Aduomi had before also axed out a member of Parliament who was actually a cabinet minister. And therefore, why is he angered by the fact that John Kuma, booted him out of Parliament? And that is why he's coming back to reclaim the seat from the current lawyer, But the people told him that, look, this same gentleman was the one who brought us roads. He was the one who brought some scintilla of development. Because before then, nobody in that constituency had brought them development. And it is evident, everybody can see. So Aduomi had a lot of influence on the people in Ejuso. But then again, like I said, if you have the state backing an individual, there is no way an independent candidate can win the seat. And that is why the gentleman won. Now, undoubtedly, I believe there's a settled, hopeless expectation of some neutrality when it comes to the Electoral Commission and how it conducts itself relative to elections in this country. It is settled and it is hopeless, and there is no expectation of neutrality. I say this because we have in the past witnessed a situation where card-bearing members of the New Patriotic Party have been sent to the EC office, and nobody spoke about it. We have seen videos of a certain gentleman, I think in Yendi or so, who openly stated that he is a card-bearing member of the NPP, but because of the exercise that he was conducting, he couldn't have come out to say that he's a card-bearing member of the NPP, and openly shouted their slogan, Kukrudu. I don't know if you saw the video. So it tells you that even in the Electoral Commission, beyond Dr. Bosman and all the others who are card-bearing members and sympathizers of the NPP, you still have people at that level as presiding officers and whatnot who are with the NPP. Now, it flows from the street, and the concern that has been raised by Senior is absolutely true, that we must begin to worry about this democracy that we are enjoying. Because if you have an umpire that is supposed to be neutral in the conduct of elections in this country, and that umpire has acted in ways which is at variance with common sense and at variance with everything that is positive, then we must be worried. That you are going into a football match knowing that the referee supports Chelsea or the referee supports Arsenal. Even if it is not a penalty, the referee would say it's a penalty. And you see, people have lost confidence in this whole electioneering process. People are beginning to lose confidence in our courts. It's unfortunate, but that is the reality. That today, people are saying that even if we lose an election, we won't go to court. That we will make sure analysis of what transpired when the gentleman, Professor Nyaku, went and gave money to an EC official. It's telling that these bunch of members of the EC belong to a certain political party. And I'm afraid because if care is not taken, election 2024 will be chaotic. And you see, do you know why by-elections are very important?
We hope not.
By-elections are very important for two reasons. One, for the incumbent administration to test the waters, to see whether or not they are still popular with the people. And for the opposition political parties to also find out whether or not they have some grounds for the upcoming elections. If you check the voter turnout, if you look at the percentages, I can confidently state that it is not good for the New Patriotic Party. I don't know whether the NDC candidate may win, but from where I sit, I believe that in 2024, on December 7th, Adiomi may win that seat.
Right. I want us to involve the viewers at this point. We have a message from Comrade Efo in Sunyani. He says, "Good evening, Pan-African TV. Very nice program and objective analysis from the panelists. This government has become the most unpopular party in the Fourth Republic, and it will be written in the history books of Ghana. Ghanaians are eagerly waiting for 7 December to throw out this incompetent government. Vote buying has become common in the current political environment. If care is not taken, soon enough, syndicated cartels will sponsor our elections. What a motherland." And this is from Comrade Efo in Sunyani. This one says, "Watching you live from Drapa in Upper West Region. Good evening. I don't know why most of the NPP members are so arrogant that they don't care about anything people complain about. Rather, so people should make sure they all move to their MP's house for him to bribe them or give them envelopes before they vote. Arrogant behavior is coming to an end December 7th. His name is Isaiah BD in Drapa." Okay, I want us to move to our next issue, and that would be Iyoko and, the money laundering probe into the pairs affairs. We've seen this letter, this 3-page letter from the AG, basically, this is me summarizing, basically saying that, yes, indeed, we have the powers to commence investigations. Let me just read the last paragraph. It says, "Even though, as part of your mandate, you could commence investigations into the sources of the money found in the home of the suspects, we do not find this necessary, since this office before the reference by the OSP had instructed the police service, who had already seized with other aspects of the case to investigate the sources of the huge sums of money found in the home of the suspects, a fact the OSP is aware of. We find from the OSP's docket, marked as B1, a copy of the Attorney General's letter to the Director General of the CID, dated 31st July 2023. In light of the above, the OSP docket on the subject matter is returned herewith." So, yes, you have the power to investigate, but we don't think that, it was necessary in these circumstances. Return. I'll start with you, lawyer.
I understand. It's worrying when the body granted power to more or less investigate offenses, corruption. And you see, the fight against corruption also demands that we have a system, we put in place a system that does very effective lifestyle audit. Understand? Because if you do science, and let me use, there's a principle in science that energy is neither created nor destroyed. It comes from one source. It's similar with money. You see, money always has or must always have a source. So we know how much public or say that the Prime Minister, how much she takes. So if per chance, and we all know the circumstances that brought the matters to the fore, where she has been reported certain monies having been lost in her house, and where she has those kinds of monies in her home, and we all don't know the source, and we all know the the perception of corruption within our public service space. You understand? For the minister in charge of justice, I always say Attorney General, because he's a minister of Attorney General, is also minister for justice. To write this letter where he used the word that even though the sources are questionable, he understands that you need to investigate the source, and yet says it is unnecessary. I find it, that's the word unnecessary, I find it very worrying, because you know, in our last discussion, we raised issues about why the police or the law enforcement agencies, or like in this case, Attorney General, whether Yoko Attorney General, or our law enforcement agencies are supposed to help us fight corruption. You see, where they consistently refuse to do their job in one, fighting corruption, but also their job in protecting our lives and our properties. Because over the past few days, we've had the military issue. I hope it's one of the discussions.
Yes.
Topics the military
Yes.
issue. Personally, I've had issues with so many instances where the police simply don't act. Yeah, you understand? Now, for me, is it because the powers that be things that probably is unnecessary? Yes, because see, there was a reason why we formed the OSP. We all know why we formed the OSP. We all understand the agitation that went on before the OSP position was formed. Is it the case that Nado just saw it as a political tool, a tool to win power, and was that the purpose? Because having had the bitter experience of Martin Amidou's issue, Ankwanoma, and your son, and I think it is really sad that this letter and the kind of words used will emanate from the Attorney General or the Minister for Justice. Also, you know, I've had personal experiences with the police just refusing to do their work. And I think I'd mentioned an issue of a friend whose property has basically been taken over by criminals, who has reported the case to the police, and the police have refused to act, as in they've not even invited the is it accused?
Right.
You understand? So for me, like I'm saying, I'm very worried. I'm very worried because of our attitude towards wrongdoing. As in, if EC can say I've done my investigations and it's just lunch, and so matter close, and then you have a whole Attorney General, a Minister for Justice, who says that understand that the police, understand that you, the police, you have their issues that would require further investigations, but I don't think it is necessary. No matter the story, no matter the background, no matter the trajectory of events, it is as in, clearly, for me, it tells me that the government, they do not have a commitment to fighting corruption.
Right.
And that has been the biggest issue I personally have with this government. You take the Dunso issue, and it boils down to commitment. You talk about the Galamsey issue, it boils down to commitment. You talk about delivering leadership, and it boils down to commitment. It's not that they lack the capacity to do it. They just don't want to do it. And for me, and I can see that lack of commitment in the very spirit of this letter. Because Ghanaians are worried. People don't have money. And the minister suddenly has. In fact, it's not about people not having money. It's like, if genuinely you make your money, I don't think we should have any issue with it. But this is a case where, or a government where we know people in this government who didn't even have a couch to lay their heads on, and suddenly have mansions, have as in houses, and then in the midst of all this system, which is causing the citizenry not to lose faith in this system that we've created for ourselves. You find a story where the person has millions and millions of cedis and thousands of dollars and euros, and people believe that, listen, at least there will be some sanity in the system, and nothing is happening.
Right.
And then the minister who is in charge for justice. Because when he's Atunja, he's a lawyer for government. But when you're minister for justice, then you are minister for all of us, because you are the a chief crusader for justice. And the people, all of us, are demanding justice as a respect of how public officers, how they conduct themselves. We are demanding for justice in terms of how we perceive people we give our powers to. We are demanding for justice in how they dispense with the powers we give them. And where Ghanaians feel that, listen, this woman has used the powers we have given her not to protect or not to fight for her interests, but to amass wealth or to fight for her parochial interests. And you dilly-dally with investigation, nothing seems to be happening, everything is dropping, and then the minister in charge of justice, who's supposed to be the chief crusader for the delivery of justice to the people of Ghana, says that we know that you should ordinarily investigate the sources of money, but we don't think it's necessary. It's a huge slap on our faces.
Right.
It's a huge slap on our faces.
Right.
Understand?
Right.
And it is a symptom of the deprivation of leadership that we are talking about. And a cause for change. A cause for not necessarily a change of regime, but a change in the system that we've created for ourselves.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Hetty Anafo, well, Harriet Ogede Anafo on Facebook says, Ghanaians truly deserve what NPP is dishing out. Next time, vote wisely. Lami says, an election with figures and no rejected ballots. What a country. Still the MP at post. Now these people are giving out we for vote. Until now, no arrest. If it was NDC, we would have heard from the so-called wise men. She says, God is watching. This one from Tom D. Tom says, the Ejisu result is a manipulated one from NPP to EC. By 7 p.m., NPP had recorded 55.8% and 43.3% from 181 polling stations. EC, by 11 p.m., announced the same 55.8% and 43.3% in favor of NPP. The same thing happened in 2020. Let me come to our text line. This one says, please, I'm Abdullah, watching live from Nyankpala in the constituency of the most lip service MP in the Ghanaian Parliament, Tolun. Nobody will say anything to any institution that will be involved in the 2024 general election that God Almighty does not stand by them. Whatever plans they have put in place to cause problems in the elections will be revealed by God. Tolan's seat will be smashed from the MPP come 2024. Thank you, Abdullah. If you had stayed on topic, that would have been great. This one says, good evening, Pan-African TV. The police should arrest Dr. Nyako and jail him to serve as a deterrent to others. His name is Isaac from Asanso in Bekwai. This one, right. Okay, that's a lot of messages. Summarize, please, and I'll read it out for you. This one says, please, who won the Ejisubai election? Could you answer the question for you in a minute? This one says, very good, brilliant, and independent deliberations. We need more of such discussions to broaden our mental horizon on issues of national interest. His name is Kwekue Dinkra Kosopre from Doma Ahinkro. So who won the election?
What? Osei? Oh.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yes. Okay.
The NPP won 55%.
Right.
50, yeah.
Actually, no. Let me come to Kwame before I come to you. Kwame, this is the other part.
Thank you very much. But are you surprised at the outcome of this whole Cecilia Dapa saga? Because I'll be shocked if you are actually surprised. Ghanaians were hoodwinked into thinking that the Akufo-Addo administration had the magic wand to deal with all corruption and corruption-related matters when given the opportunity, because it was their trump card, because that is what they trumpeted most. that there was bus branding, that there was corruption, that we had overspent monies in respect of the roads that we constructed. Several corruption allegations leveled against the Mahama administration. And that is what gave birth to the Office of the Special Prosecutor. Because the idea was to go after alleged corrupt officials in the NDC administration. But I think that whole exercise or enterprise was just a small screen of deception. That you are making the Ghanaian people believe that when you are given the opportunity, you come and fight corruption. And it is very, very interesting because I think they did not appreciate the nature of the path that they were going to ply. And that is why they made all those promises. They didn't know that in his administration there will be bust scandal. That there will be a certain Ousu, a free, who would go and purchase 13 air conditioners just to power his home. That there would be Kelny GVG. They didn't know that there would be PDS. They never foresaw that. And so when all those matters started coming up, then the president said, wait a minute. Yes, I set up the Office of the Special Prosecution, but it appears that he would rather go after my people rather than going for the NDC alleged corrupt officials. And that is why, that was the beginning of the woes of the Office of the Special Prosecution. And they were so smart that they didn't give the Office of the Special Prosecution 100% control. They took the powers of the Attorney General in Article 88 and said, oh, let me just scrape a little bit for you for the purposes of just handling corruption, corrupt officials and corruption related matters. You will investigate and prosecute, but at the instance of the Attorney General. So tomorrow, if Mr. A is alleged to have been involved in corruption and the Attorney General comes and says that you claim that the person is involved in corruption, but we find that there's nothing wrong in what the person has done, that's the end of the matter. The Office of the Special Prosecution would not be able to prosecute the matter. So that was the beginning of the problems of the Office of the Special Prosecution. So I'm not surprised at all that today we are not able to utilize the powers effectively that we have given to that office. Martin Amidu, citizen vigilante, was the first person to occupy that office. And in the dying embers of his stay in the office, he was as eloquent and as loud when he intimated, I was going to say indicated, where he indicated to us that, wait, the president is actually the mother serpent of corruption. The president himself is the mother serpent of corruption, and that the president is a clearing agent. Have you forgotten that he said the president is a clearing agent, in that he is not interested in fighting corruption. In fact, he is corruption himself. He is corruption. So if you have a president whose best friend is Martin Amidu, and Martin Amidu is telling you that the president himself is the definition of corruption, then whom am I to come and say otherwise? Then it is quite clear that the president was not, never, is not, never ready to fight corruption. And therefore, corruption will continue to remain. In 2013, if you check the Transparency International's report on corruption, between 2013 and 2022, in fact, it was worse between 2019 and 2023. Check the records, the data. Ghana, I think, is 73rd or 78th out of 120 or 105 countries in the world. The worst ever. So as for corruption, it's like Siamese twins. This administration and corruption is like brother and sister, father and wife relationship. There's a symbiotic, I like that word, there's a symbiotic relationship between the presidency and corruption. Ama, there are so many things I cannot tell you on air. But I can assure you, look, let me tell you, there was a company that was created for the purposes of, I think it was at the VVIP at the airport. It was called, what's the name? I've forgotten. It was just this private escort. You know those people who provide specific chauffeur services, something like that. I've forgotten the name. And every contract, I understand, but this is important. I just want to look at it because I know Kojo will look at it from a different perspective. But let me just make this point and conclude on that. That under no circumstance will the president fight corruption. And especially in Cecilia Dapa's case, the president, in response to the resignation letter written by Cecilia Dapa, was very, very magnanimous by indicating to us, the whole world, that, my dear Cecilia Dapa, I believe you are innocent in it. I'm paraphrasing, but I believe you are innocent in this matter, and very soon you'll be cleared. But if the clearing agent himself has come out to say that I know you are innocent and you'll be cleared, do you think that the AG can act otherwise? Do you think that the office of the special prosecution will be allowed to operate in a manner that it would want to operate? Do you think that the IGP can direct the Director General CID to investigate Cecilia Dapa? Do you think that Iyoko Boss will have the temerity to investigate Cecilia Dapa? It's not gonna, it ain't happening. In fact, Shraj would not also be able to investigate Cecilia Dapa. In the final analysis and in concluding, what I'm saying is that Ghanaians shouldn't expect much from Nana Dankwa Akufo-Addo and his crop of, leaders in this administration, because they are not ready to fight corruption. If I tell you the mansions, and I think Senior mentioned it quite briefly, but if I tell you the mansions that I have personally seen of some members of this administration, you will open your mouth in awe how they have stolen our money in this country and how they have invested hugely. Why? Haven't you heard reports of your president, owning some mansion in the southern part of France?
Let's move along. Kwame, let's move along. Kwame, let's move along.
Okay, so in concluding, Chateau. Let me allow Amma to proceed.
Exactly. Thank you, Kwame. Right, Kojo.
Yes.
Briefly, I want us to be able to do the other issues as well.
Okay, all right. This matter. So, for me, there's enough blame to go around. I think everybody messed up in this value chain. Every time I call it value chain, I wonder why I'm doing this devalued chain of managing the Cecilia Dapa situation. To demonstrate that, let me just quickly go through the chronology of events, okay, where it began and where we are today. So, if you remember, this whole thing came to light because somebody took her house helps to court. The police was prosecuting some house helps for robbing somebody, Cecilia Dapa. And at some point she was called to give evidence, and it was in her evidence that she stated that these people, over a period of 3.5 months or whatever, from June till about August, stole millions of cedis, hundreds of thousands of dollars, and other currencies, euros and all that. Not to mention the jewelry, the perfumes, and all these things. And that, in fact, they stole these millions before they even, it was her husband who accidentally walked in on them one day stealing the money. Otherwise, they wouldn't even have known. They wouldn't even have been missing those millions. Right? So, at this point, the CID that was heading the prosecution of this matter against the house helps, wrote for advice from the Attorney General, as they do. Attorney General gave his advice, but in there, he chipped in that, look, I want you to also investigate the source of this money that this woman sees.
she had lying about the house and had stolen. Investigate the source of the money. Then someone wrote a petition to the special prosecutor. So the OSP also became involved. And I've got to say, that's when things started crumbling. I mean, look, if anybody else was a special prosecutor in Ghana, I might have said, oh, it was a high-profile case. They got a bit nervous, made a few mistakes. But our special prosecutor is Kisi Ajapin. We have 2 lawyers here who will tell you what that means. Look, some of the lawyers with the best records in court in terms of wins, some of the lawyers who have the best records were taught by Kisi Ajapin. He's no small person when it comes to criminal law. For him to be, he went to Cornell, I see. For him to be making blunders of this fundamental nature, missing deadlines. You are trying to see somebody's money. You are missing deadlines. Simple procedural things, for which reason your case ended up being tossed out. I mean, how can you have somebody whose entire work history, from the time they were old enough to have a job to date, is recorded on LinkedIn? And nowhere in that history is there a job that could explain her having so many millions of cedis in her house that you can steal more than 2 million of it and she won't even notice. There's no job she has done in her life that should pay her that much. And you are saying that in this country, we don't have any law under which someone as experienced as Kisi Ajapin can prosecute you. We don't. I'm sorry, but I don't know who you are going to sell that story to. But somehow Kisi Ajapin failed. To the point that he then came to, tell us that he's an Ankwanoma and or the Nebrabwa for and when he's done he will leave. So when he, fell flat on his face, he then decided to hand over the case to Iyoko. Now, at this point, he did 3 things, and I want us to pay attention. First of all, he closed down every case he had against Cecilia Dapa, dismissed every case he had against Cecilia Dapa. Everything in court was dismissed. 2, he handed over the case to Iyoko and suggested that they should prosecute her for money laundering. And 3, he handed all her money back to her.
Right.
You want somebody to prosecute her for money laundering, but you've given the money back. Please, I'm not a lawyer. You are lawyers. Am I the only one who hears the absurdity in this? I think this man has committed the offense of money laundering. But that's not I can't prosecute because it's not in my ambit to do so. You are able to prosecute him. So please prosecute him. But wait. First, let me give him back the money that I say he has laundered. Let me give it back to him. Okay, here it is. Thank you for your time. Now prosecute him. Does this make sense? So Iyoko suddenly got past this steaming turd of a case that obviously there was no way they could prosecute. Not for money laundering, no. Because you see, the other thing people don't know about money laundering is that it is not a standalone offense. You can't just accuse somebody of money laundering or prosecute someone for money laundering, because by definition, money laundering is when you have ill-gotten gains from the proceeds of another crime. So you must first commit a certain crime. There is a list in our criminal code of the crimes that qualify. Okay? So you must have committed one of those crimes before, as a result, you can be prosecuted for money laundering. Now, you special prosecutor, you have dropped all the cases that you brought against her
There's no active case. You've given her back her money. Then someone now has to prosecute her for money laundering. Based on which crime? She laundered the money from which crime? So Iyoko now had their hands tied. Now, instead of doing their own version of Ankwanuma and telling us point blank that we have been given a pointless job, they thought, okay, let's play smart here. Let's pass on the steaming pile of poop to another institution. So they then wrote this letter to the Attorney General. And I want to read the heading, just so you understand why the Attorney General responded the way they did. This is the heading. Request for directions in the matter of the Republic versus Iliabna Dapa and Daniel Osei-Kuffour. A referral by the Special Prosecutor to the Economic and Organized Crime for money laundering investigations. So Iyoko is asking the Attorney General to advise them on how to prosecute for money laundering. That's their request.
Right.
Because obviously they don't know how to go about it when there's no pre-existing case.
No
So they said, please advise us. We are under you. Advise us. So the Attorney General did just that. Gave them advice on whether or not you can prosecute for money laundering. So you notice that first of all they talked about the fact, okay, look, the special prosecutor hasn't given you the information you would need if you wanted to prosecute for money laundering. Special prosecutor says, he says, and in fact even in this letter they refer to it as alleged investigation between them and the FBI. Special prosecutor says, claims that he and the FBI did an investigation for several months. If there's going to be evidence for money laundering, that's where it will be. But they haven't given you the report of that investigation. They haven't given it to us either. So honestly, I don't know where you are going to get the evidence to prosecute for money laundering. Then it goes right on the third page. I want to read the first paragraph. It's not very long. It says, Sections 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 of the Anti-Money Laundering Act 2020 create offenses relating to money laundering. At the outset, it is important to indicate that the offense of structuring is not known to Ghana laws. I think they had asked the question about structuring, and that is not known to Ghana laws. At the heart of the offense of money laundering is gains obtained from criminal proceeds arising from an unlawful activity, which is defined in Section 63 of Act 1044 to refer to offenses specifically spelled out therein. That's what I was saying earlier. The status of property being proceeds of crime is therefore crucial to money laundering. Do you understand? The property that you have given back to her, you have to first of all prove that that property was got as proceeds of crime. Otherwise, money laundering doesn't arise.
Right.
Meanwhile, even the report of the investigation was not given to them. How are they going to prove that it was proceeds of crime? The man has given the money back. How can it be proceeds of crime? Okay. This is even so under Section 55(2) of Act 1044, where an accused may be presumed to have unlawfully acquired property in her possession which cannot be accounted for. So even in a situation where she can't explain, it's not like you have proved that she committed a crime, but she just can't explain where she got the money. Even there, money laundering can apply. But let me end it. In any event, it is material to note that Section 55(2) of Act 1044, this situation in which you can prosecute for money laundering because she can't explain where she got the money, is triggered only in the course of a trial of an accused person for a specified offense under the Act. So if the special prosecutor had not dismissed the case, the Iyoko could then have said that, okay, you haven't been able to explain where you got the money, so we can come after you for money laundering. But they've dismissed the case. So the two things that the special prosecutor did guaranteed that Iyoko can do nothing, not with money laundering. But where Iyoko also failed is that money laundering is not the only crime Iyoko can prosecute for. And even just by starting a lifestyle audit, you might have been able to find other things that you use as your basis to bring other charges against her, so that you don't have to rely on money laundering. But they didn't do that. In fact, even where the special prosecutor was handing the money back to Cecilia Dapa, if Iyoko was minded to do a good job, they could have been there. They could have just made sure there, because it didn't happen suddenly. They announced, we are going to give back the money. Then they gave the money back on a set date. Iyoko could have been there, so that the minute the OSP hands the money back to her, Iyoko seizes it. That was an option available to them. They didn't pursue that option. So for me, Iyoko also failed. It's not like they are innocent, they were handed something they couldn't, but they had opportunities to do other things, and they didn't take those opportunities. The Attorney General also, I mean, I understand why they gave this advice, because that's what they were asked for. But they also, don't forget, at the very beginning I told you that they asked the CID to investigate the source of that money, all the way back in July last year. We are in April, 9 months in. CID still hasn't found out the source of the money.
Enough blame to go around.
Thank you.
Enough blame to go around.
That's really my point here.
Let's involve the viewers at this point. There's Albert Gadago the second. He says, Amma, why did you stop him? Stop who? Richie Don Kulu. Oh, you mean Kwame? Okay. Richie Don Kulu says, really enjoying the show, Amma. Greetings to you and your panelists. Tom D. Tom says, EC officials are all corrupt and they take bribe takers. No, I'm not the one, saying this. I heard and saw EC officials jump, counting from 33 to 37. Assuming all the EC officials jump 3 votes, it means they will freely give MPP 612, and to balance it, they come down the same margin. This means they will give MPP 1,224 votes. NDC should watch out. Okay. This one says, good evening, Pan-African TV. You can do all your propaganda analysis. You people are not God to decide what will happen in 2024. His name is Nanayao Busia Ahafu Kukum. Okay. Absolutely, we are not God. This one says, good evening, Sister Amma and your panelists. Thanks for bringing this wonderful and brilliant panelists on this program. I'm very proud of them. I wish this program airs throughout the week. They are neutral in their submissions. His name is Dauda Yunus from Guaso. Oh, Goso, okay. This one says, good evening, Amma. So what is the IGP doing about Prof. Nyako's indiscipline at the polling station at Ejiso, and also the alleged distribution of weed by some NPP officials at Ejiso? Look, Judgment Day is coming, and everyone will be accountable to his or her stewardship. His name is Kwame in Tema. This one says, good evening, Pan-African TV. My name is Linus Tang. Watching you live from East Legon. Sincerely speaking, I foresee election 2024 chaotic, considering how politically biased the election management body EC is. Ghana, interesting days ahead. This one says, I am enjoying the discussion. Please, the money found in the territory of Honorable Cecilia Dapa could have been used to prevent Ghana from going to the IMF. If this huge amount of money has been found in the house of a mere minister, of a mere ministry, how much do you think will be in the house of the cabinet ministers, especially the finance minister? We, the voters, sold our future to them. I have never seen 3 years old MP richer like this current administration of the NPP government. Okay. This one says, good evening, Pan-African TV. In fact, Professor Nyako and the EC officials must be prosecuted and let them face the consequences of violating the rules and regulations of the election process. This signifies that the AEC officials have been manipulating the election results in favor of the MPP. Since then, the IGP should make sure that these victims face serious sanctions in order to avoid reasonable doubt in the upcoming election results. His name is Abugui from Seshi Yoso. Okay. This one says, lawyers were the most respected and sincere people in this country. Unfortunately, Nana Akufo-Addo and Bawumia have made them lose value. All the lawyers in the Supreme Court and courts are judging cases in the interest of political parties. If there will be war, we will start from lawyers. From the lawyers' houses to the president, security houses, then to civil society's house, and to ordinary citizens. Isaiah, I have 2 lawyers in my studio. Calm down. Calm down. Let's go straight to Akufo-Addo's selective treatment of chiefs. I will start with you, lawyer.
Nadu. William. You see, I think to understand this issue, we need to understand the architecture of the historical architecture of the governance system in this country and why chiefs are so critical. You know, when the British colonized us, they chose, and I think they chose to do so indirectly. And so they didn't directly disband traditional authority in this country. You understand? So when the British left and really handed the reins of government to Ghanaians ourselves, we felt, in the way we conducted ourselves, we felt that we needed to maintain that kind of respect and now we accorded our chiefs. And so I know that various executives have found ways of manipulating the authority chiefs have. Indeed, the whole Chieftaincy Act and who is the chief, the fact that you need state recognition can be said to be a way in which the state felt that they could use to, at least, I think manipulation is too strong a word, but at least to have some form of control over the chieftaincy. Because you see, whether you like it or not, the world proper authority, whether you like it or not, the world proper authority. And so the state has managed to manage this kind of dual authority in our system very, very well. And it is because of that why I find it very disappointing that really an issue which has never been an issue. Really, it has never been an issue because we have real problems in this country. One of them certainly is not or should not be how the state, how government handles our chiefs. In my view, it should even come up, especially with the myriad of problems we have. So I find it very, very disappointing that Nana Akufo-Addo, A.K. William, will find a way of making this an issue. He will find a way of making this an issue because he's not the first president we've had. Therefore, we've had J.J. Rawlings, we've had President Akufo, and this issue never came up. You understand? I think for me, we need to understand privilege and right. As in, should I be compelled by any law to even stand another works in here? When I stand, it is a privilege really that I'm according him, but nothing compels me to stand up should another walk in here. Really, would I have committed any offense if another walks in here, or is it the president of Ghana walks in here and I don't stand up? Would I have committed any offense? Yeah, so really, if our leader, I'll say president, if our leader is somebody who understands that leadership really is not just positional, and that you do not demand for respect, this shouldn't be an issue. For me, if he really understands that really to lead is to serve, then the fact that a chief sits down when you're working, it shouldn't be an issue. In fact, I've seen John Mahama, how he deals with chiefs. I've seen President Kofa, how he dealt with chiefs. And it's never become an issue. Sadly, and I think, Richard, I don't know, you already mentioned here, but sadly, he's even fueling, unfortunately, tribal sentiments in the way he's even handling this. Because I've heard people make arguments, sadly. And when you go to the Achime Buakwa chief, and we should understand that the Ochenhene is just chief of Achime Buakwa. It's not chief of Achime Kutuku. It's not chief, it's Achime Buakwa chief. He did not disrespect him to the extent, as in, like he did the poor chief in what OT. For me, it's sad that when we are talking about Nado here, but it is, for me, the issue becomes, what is the character of this man who is our president? Does he even understand leadership? Because, Kwame, I think on your show yesterday, I spoke about even me personally having issues with the number of times I've heard Nado saying that I am the president of Ghana. I have issues with it, because if really for him it's about the position, I mean, I'm a president, so stand up. But there are problems when you're a leader in this country, because of the problems we have. You really have to be. You really need to be busy.
Right.
You understand? Right. So for me, I think if I had doubts, if I had doubts about whether or not we have a leader or not, as in right now in Ghana, whether we have a leader or not, but Nado telling a chief that you must get up in the disrespectful manner he did, tell that unfortunately for us, yes, we have a president, but we do not have a leader. And because we do not have a leader, is reasons why, more critically, all the values, all the principles, all the institutions, everything that we care about is being attacked. Because unfortunately, we have a president. He struggled to be president. He begged us to be president. But sadly, he did not want to lead. And because he did not want to lead, that's why he does not seem to understand that really it was a call to serve. It was a call that came with a duty. It was a call that came with an obligation. So he enjoys the trappings of the power. The nice chauffeur, or His Excellency, appointing people. But he simply...
Thank you, lawyer.
He simply, let me just end on this, he simply does not want to lead.
Right. Right. I see that our viewership on Facebook has dropped drastically. I think we are having a problem, with the stream link. But I see icon KGB Man Smith. He says, Amma always cuts Kwame halfway. He's a lawyer and he can defend himself. So let him flow. Please, I would let him flow. He always flows. I have a few messages here also. This one says, please, Amma, help me tell Kojo to aim at the moon. Even when he misses, he will land among the stars. His name is Redeemer Jamfi from Bogoso. I'm hoping this is some coded message that you understand.
Motivational. Okay. Thank him very much for that. I appreciate it.
Okay, this one says, good evening, Pan-African TV. This is Ali watching you live from Asem. Okay, in the Ahafo Ano South East constituency in the Ashanti region. As for Sledapar's case, we should leave it for the next president to handle it. This one says, when does it become normal for political activists to feed EC officials during elections? Team official feeding referee. God bless us all. His name is Emmanuel. Hi, Emmanuel. The Nadu and Baumia government is the most corrupt government in the history of Ghana. Currently, Dumso is now at its highest level. Why? NPP party is not a good party for Ghana. We must all vote well for JM. His name is Jagri James from Soboba. I enjoy your show. Keep it up. We love it when you enjoy our show. We actually aim to please. Right. A few more messages and then we are... Right. This one says, please, you people should speak and shame the devil. My name is Patrick Akwachi Boyson from Central Region. God is in control. Okay. This one says, good evening, Amma. The return of the money, was it not the court that directed the OSP? Oh, Okay. As I'm reading your message, you just deleted it. That's fine. I think his question has to do with whether it's not the court that directed the OSP to take the money back. I think. Anyway, we don't have time. I'm sorry, we don't have time, gentlemen. Let me take your brief comments on this and then we're out. I'll start with you, Kwame.
I think that, let's face it, and Senior was trying to be charitable with words. I think that the president is just a tribal bigot. Because I've seen videos of him visit his chief in his hometown, and he walks straight to where the chief is seated and shakes the chief's hand. I've seen him walk to the chief of Kumasi. But he's a chief.
Not of Kumasi.
Okay, so the chief of Asanteman, the chief of Asanteman. That's what you want me to say. Okay, the chief of Asanteman. And then Ashanti is a kid. He's a chief, brother. You know he's a chief. You're a lawyer, you know. There's no king or anything in Ghana. Anyway, and then we see the treatment that he met out to the chief. But when you go to my region, Uti region, and Central region, then you go and disrespect our chiefs. Why? Is it because you think that our chiefs do not have respect? Is it because you think that we don't have... You recall one time, one of these MPP guys said that why is it that some cocoa growing regions, why do we have to use their money to develop other regions? Do you remember? One of your people said that why do we have to use your previous people, MPP people.
What is this? I take some exception to
One of them said, why must we use the proceeds from the cocoa and then the gold and things like that to develop other regions? Do you remember, Kojo?
He's one of your people.
Yeah,
Something like
said that. So clearly they don't respect our region, and I think that is why the president is behaving this way, because even the demeanor, the posturing, the way he went about it, Mahama doesn't force respect. In fact, have you seen when Mahama visits the chiefs? They get up and then they shake him. Let me leave it.
Thank you, Kwame. Could you a few minutes? Actually, we don't have 1 minute.
Yeah, I'll be brief.
Real
Okay.
fast.
Somebody mentioned something to me called the Napoleon complex.
Right.
So I looked it up. Let me read what I found. As a colloquial term used occasionally in psychology, psychiatry, and psychoanalysis, the Napoleon complex refers to a specific type of inferiority complex associated with short people, and especially with short men. It is also sometimes called the Napoleon syndrome or the short man complex. Individuals with this disposition are claimed to overcompensate for their short stature by being excessively belligerent, hostile, or quarrelsome in their interpersonal relationships. When you watch that video, the president turns up at an event, walks up to chiefs who are seated, and then he gestures for them to get up. The first thing I'll say is that as a human being, and this applies to all of us, the minute you find yourself demanding respect, it means you don't have respect. If you had it, you wouldn't have to demand it. Do you understand? The fact that he had to call for the respect means that he knows he doesn't have it. And that's not the first time. There was another event where he turned up with Henry Corte, and I think they were playing national anthem or something, and he got annoyed that some people were not standing, and he was shouting publicly at Henry Corte to go and tell them to stand up. That's who he is. And you talked about the number of times he has said, I'm the president, I'm the president. It's quite clear that in his mind, there is a need for him to remind and convince Ghanaians that he's the head of state, because he doesn't think it's enough. He doesn't think it's enough just being the head of state. Somehow he's worried that people might not see him
for the giant that he is supposed to be. So he must come and remind us. And I'm saying, the minute you start doing that, you are proving that you don't have respect. It is a simple, logical fact.
Right.
And I think I'll leave it there. As for the chieftaincy ministry and their explanations and all of that, at public events, they have asked chiefs to stand. Please, is this a law or what? Why must the president be forcing them? What if one of them was sick and couldn't stand? You are even going further. I am saying, what if one of them was not well and he was standing there belligerently, forcing them to stand? I mean, what is this? In a few months' time, you'll be an old man sitting in your beach house somewhere. I didn't say that. You'll be an old man sitting somewhere.
Thank you. Thank you.
Honestly, he needs to check himself.
Right. I would say I found the whole thing very unprecedented. It wasn't dignified. It wasn't graceful. It was behavior that I just don't associate with any kind of leadership, talk less of the president. Yeah. That was my problem. It just didn't look dignified for me, no, I didn't expect that kind of it was too low. Something some other people can do, definitely not a leader. Not a leader. Too low. Way too low. Thank you, gentlemen, for being here. Thank you, Kwame, for being here. Thank you, Kojo, for being here. Thank you, Noya, for being here. Always a pleasure. Next week, we are on? Next week? Yes. Thank you for watching. Thank you for sending your, comments, your questions, your views through to first our Facebook page, to our WhatsApp line, but also to our text line. We do this with you all the time, and we absolutely aim to please keep paying attention to the issues. Next week, Thursday, we are here to do more analysis of the issues as they come up. Enjoy your evening. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.